Don't ignore the VS Code, because I've seen that people put the VS Code folder inside the gitignore file. I give you reasons why you should not. Let's imagine you are about to review a PR, and the PR has so many file changes. So you will think, what the heck just happened? But then you realize the formatting is off. He or she uses tabs instead of spaces, double quote instead of single quote. And that's because you don't share the same configuration, the same settings, even though both of you are using VS Code. This concept also works in IntelliJ's IDE. I believe the folder for that is called IDE. Of course, the syntax is different, and in this presentation, I will use VS Code syntax for that. And if you scan the QR code, you find the presentation. Don't ignore the VS Code, because as I said, you can apply settings for the repository. So let's say we work on a TypeScript project. So we can use the correct compiler version for that by saying, okay, whenever I use npm install, I know the TypeScript library is also installed. So I can tell VS Code, okay, point to that library. That makes sure that you use the correct TypeScript version. You can also change default behavior. So you can say, okay, our default formatter in this case is ByMJS. And since ByMJS knows or does linting and formatting, I can disable default settings, saying, okay, I want to disable explicitly prettier. I want to explicitly disable the inbuilt TypeScript formatter. And since ESLint is also able to format, I also want to disable ESLint for that. Whenever I use the format on save true, it will automatically save. Whenever I hit command save, it will format the code according to the default formatter. You can also apply that to multiple languages. So let's say you work on a project with multiple programming languages, so you can define a block for TypeScript and a block for Python in this case. So let's see that in action. So I have a project, and the project has, it's a monorepo, has a backend app, infrastructure, and an AI package, but no VS Code folder yet. So I create a VS Code folder, and I want to create settings JSON. So you can see the formatting for this function is actually quite off. So we have here double quote. And this is a TypeScript project. I know the TypeScript SDK, TSDK, will be inside the node modules folder, which I have installed here. So inside here, there is the TypeScript folder, and there's a lib folder. And now I let VS Code know that the TypeScript version is here. This is a safe approach, because otherwise you could have TypeScript installed globally, and that may a different version than the version you use here in your project. So this is always a good practice to say, okay, use the correct compiler version. So now we want to say format on save. So whenever we hit save, we want to format, and we want to use a different formatter for our TypeScript file. We define here TypeScript, and we want to use a default formatter saying ByMJS. Since I have here ByMJS, a configuration file already defined, so I said, okay, I want single quote, I want spaces instead of tabs. So whenever I hit now save, it should automatically format for me. Let's replace that. Let's take that off. I have removed that. If I hit save, nothing happens. Again, if I put ByMJS here, then this will automatically be saved. As I said, ESLint enabled false, because ByMJS is able to do linting. Also prettier enabled false, because ByMJS is also able to do formatting, as we could see. And there's also the inbuilt TypeScript format enable. We also want that to false. What happens if we remove ByMJS now and we enable TypeScript? So the formatting will be now different, because it uses the inbuilt VS Code TypeScript formatter. You should disable that. It will pick always the default formatter, just to be safe, because sometimes, so for example, in the settings, if you open the settings and you have something weird in your prettier config file, something on off, and you forgot to turn it off, it may correlate with the settings from ByMJS. So it's always safe to turn these three off if you use ByMJS, or to turn on one but not the other one. Don't ignore the VS Code, because you can apply extensions. So you can actually recommend the new user, or the user who uses this repository, what extension he or she should install. So in this case, ByMJS is quite new, and they have a VS Code extension. If you add this then to the extension JSON, then it will pop up below on the right bottom corner. Do you want to install this ByMJS extension? If we go back in the VS Code folder, and now we have an extensions JSON, we can actually copy that, I believe, and then add here. ESLint also has an extension, Python also has an extension. This is just an example that you can have multiple extension in here. Don't ignore the VS Code because you can actually also add code snippets. Snippets scaffold code for you. It's a nice code generator if you have code which repeats itself. So in this case, we have an AWS CDK stack. So whenever you type in CDK stack, it will appear in your autocomplete. And whenever you hit enter, it will then output some code. By defining the scope, in this case, saying it's a TypeScript file, VS Code automatically turn on the syntax highlighting for you. And you can define a description. This is nice to let the user know what he or she expects. And the body part is now the part where you define the code scaffold. And so let's define that. Okay, I have actually in my backend, which this is running on GCP. So I create a GCP functions, and this is like code snippets. So as you can see, the icon changed to the VS Code icon, meaning this is a valid extension, and that's all you need for now. Like I said, this is all in GCP, and these functions are actually similar. They have a handler, they have an async function, they return a response, they send and set responses. They are actually similar. So let's copy paste that, and I want to show you a nice tool. It's called snippet generator. So if you Google snippet generator, it should be the first one. Or you can paste in your code in here, because the syntax of these code snippets is a bit off. So the body part, so for each line, you need to wrap it inside double quotes, and you also need to be aware of the spaces here. This snippet generator is quite nice. So whenever I type in GCP functions, it will create a simple GCP function for me. Okay, and then I can copy that. I think the copy snippet button does not really work, but let's take this. There's missing, because it's a JSON object in the end, there's missing the brackets. When you create a new file and you say, okay, GCP function, it will appear in your autocomplete, and it says create a simple GCP function. It will also show you what you can expect here. And if you hit enter, you will get the scaffold of the code you expect. So the handler, you can also use this functionality. Let's delete this for now. You can also use something like $0, and that means the cursor after you hit enter will jump at that point. So here's what I meant. So now if I put GCP function, the cursor will jump in there where I put the $0. You can also use it to multiple places. So if you have a place where you say the name repeats itself, you can actually put it into multiple places and you get multiple cursors. This is a nice feature. So as you can see, you get like here handler and below here in line 7. Okay, but you can also extend that. You can also say, okay, I have actually multiple variables, so I can also put that $1 and also $2. Whenever I create a new GCP function, so it will jump now to the first $, so $1. This is number 1, and then if I hit tab, it will jump to the second one. This is number 2, and if I jump to the next one, it will jump there where I put the $0, and in that case, it was a multiple cursor, so I can put in here the name of the function. So this is how you make use of the snippets. Don't ignore the VS Code, because you can turn the VS Code editor to a fully fledged IDE by using launch JSON. Inside the VS Code folder, I created now a launch JSON, and I have a configurations object, which is, as you can see, is an array. So actually you can add multiple configurations in there. That's why I'm requesting a new instance by launching it. We also have the attach option. That means it will attach to a running instance. So you have a localhost running in the background, and you can attach that configuration to your running instance. And then you can also give it a name. You can change the working directory. Since we have a monorepo, it's inside the workspace folder. This is the syntax to say, okay, we are in the root. And now my backend is in the packages backend. And so this is my working directory for the backend. And I can add some executable. It's a Bun project. So the executable is not Node, but Bun. And whenever I say Bun dev, it will spin up a development server. So by adding the dev parameter or argument, that's called runtime args. And I can add, it's again a list of strings. You can add whatever you are allowed to add in here. Did I forget something? All the console logs should be put into the integrated terminal. So the logs you see here should be displayed in there as well. Now you have saved the launch JSON. You can now go to the run and debug. And as you can see, there is now one configuration called one backend that should reflect the name of your launch.json. And then if you select this and hit the play button, it will create a new debugger for you. This debugger is turned on. So if I now set, for example, a breakpoint here, and I now do a request on localhost, this is my cur request, it will jump to the debugger, to the breakpoint. And then I can evaluate, okay, what was the request? I sent a body request with a Snickers bar, as you can see here. And then I have this little console to also step into the function and see what was the body. Okay, the body has the request. I destructed it. It is a string. This is how I turn on the debug. You can use multiple settings, configuration. So in this case, I attach this debugger to a running instance on localhost on port 8081. But it is a different type. For using this export type, you need to have the export tool of vscode. The extension JSON is quite necessary because you can copy the extension ID and then add it in here, and so that the new user can install this extension for this repository. So be smart and don't ignore the vscode. We have seen that you can share settings with your colleague. You can even turn your editor to a fully fledged IDE. You can make use of extension or recommend extension for this repository. You can also leverage snippets, which is a powerful way to scaffold your code. And that's all I have. These are the reasons why you should not ignore the VS Code. You can find me on Twitter under JoloDevGuru, and I'm also blogging on Medium, dev, #node under JoloDev, and you'll find all the information on jolo.dev. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.